Hello, time for another Curse of Strahd map video. We are going to do the Gates of Barovia, which is technically two maps of this. Frustratingly, this is exactly the same map, but with two different angles. So I need to redo my levels, redo my wars each time. But the concept for you is going to be similar. So this video will probably be twice the length it needs to be. I'll show you everything, and then I'm going to do it for the other set. So I'm going to do the Gates of Barovia West, first of all. So again, all of our maps are set to 140. We've got our Barovia Gates West, and we have variants of all of these. So I'm just going to go with our regular daytime one first. And this is it to start with. Because we're layering these up using Foundry features, the real base is very, very dull. This is far from what it's going to look like when it's finished. I should also specify Barovia, so Gates of Barovia West Day, because we're going to have a few of these. Now, what I should have checked before the video started is, do we have a height for the Gates of Barovia? I don't feel like we do. Let me just check my very, very legitimate source of information. Gates of Barovia. I don't feel like it specifies a height. High stone battlements, buttresses. And there is nothing that specifies the height. Cool, that's fine. The art, though, any of you who are here will be familiar with the art. The art's insane. These are like hundreds of feet tall in the art, but I feel like that becomes silly. These walls are high enough that I feel like a lot of spells wouldn't even make sense to work. We're going to go with 60 foot. For the purpose of setting these up, these are 60 foot tall. My logic being, we have trees on the floor, and we typically do trees as being 20 or 30 foot, depending on the appearance of the tree. And we have these bits of cliff and ledge off to the side, which we can say are like 40, meaning there is some height differential between the cliffs. So these walls in this video and on this map are going to be 60 foot tall. So I'm going to set this to be a levels map. No, I'm not actually, because it's just walls I'm doing. I don't feel like I need to get into all of that. What I am going to do is wall my scene. So we now have exterior walls, but I had invisible walls on, so I've walled the map with invisible walls. There we go, done it again with our real walls. We have a lot to do on this map. Let's have a look. In our assets folder, we have a fair bit. So let's have a look here. Blood moon trees, day trees, night trees, sunset trees. We have bear trees, and then we have the other trees. So our bear trees, let's have a look. Where do we have those being? Don't have any indicator of those on the map already, it looks like. So I'm going to keep an eye out for shadows here. I wonder if that's how those are meant to be. In fact, yeah, because they cut off, I can't see us having that little bit of tree hanging off a ledge, and that makes that one clip with this tree trunk. So yeah, I'm confident this goes down at the bottom. These small dead trees, I'm going to have a height of 10 foot. So you're underneath them until you are 10 foot tall, and then you are above them. And then at the top half of the map, we have our updated pine trees and the statues. Statues will be different. Okay, let's have a look. I'm trying to think of a different height between the statues and the trees, really, but that won't be a problem. We are going to say that these trees are 30. So once you're higher than 30 foot tall, you are now above these trees. And then we obviously have the wall. I'm going to do everything else before I start touching the wall. So what do I want to do with this? Well, I would like to make it so that we can step underneath the statues, like pass under their arms, but not get into the middle of them. However, I suspect that when I look at this with token vision now, I am going to have vision problems because there's technically a roof tile above. Yeah, that doesn't work. So I need to be rid of those, which is fine. It just means that our players pass under the statue. We can say, you know, if they have their legs spread, you can get underneath through the spread legs or whatever. The main part of this is I want to have people experience passing under the the outstretched arms. They can also go underneath our pine trees. I could do little circles in the middle of the pine trees. Everybody knows a tree has a trunk. I feel like when you can move freely within your 5 foot space, your square as a token, it's pedantry. I feel like to have a little vision, a movement blocker underneath. You know you've stepped around the tree. Then we have our walls. So, how are we going to do this? If we're saying that our walls are 50 foot, then I want these walls to go from being 0 foot tall to being 59 feet tall, which means when somebody goes beyond that, I'm going to have this be, it is 2 doors, but I'm going to have it be 1 in Foundry, because in the book, they swing open and closed together, is my justification. So I'm going to have all of these. So I'm going to shift click them to make sure I get them all. Oh, shine on. I've lost it. Do you know what? I'm just going to do it this way. And then unselect the exterior walls. And I'm going to say these have a bottom of 0 and a top of 59. These are now 59 foot tall walls. Let's check. Yep, we can't see through. Make our height 40. Yep, we still can't see through. Let's make our height 60. Excellent. Now we can see over. Happy days. I also realized I have this set to be fog vision. I do not want to have fog vision enabled. So, good. I now want to look at my gatehouse roof. So this is a segment of wall that sits over everything, and I want that to be an overhead tile. Yes, it's technically a roof. If you go underneath, the tile fades, and this begins at 60 foot. Let's see how this works. Might need to change this. It is an unusual layout of map, but we'll see. So there's a little indent there where we get in. Oh, I didn't. I forgot to make the door a door. It is closed. Let's go with the. I'm still trying to remember what the best. I don't feel like any door is going to be as heavy sounding as we need here. Definitely not. But we're not going to get a door that huge and loud sounding. Now we have all of this. We have vision underneath, which changes the colouring. Let me just try something else with that. Try and say reveals fog of war, and that should make that slightly better looking. Yeah, we no longer get that until we step under it. I might need to try and find. Frustratingly, I really love the new built-in wall feature, door sound features, but there's nothing to go and customize it yet without relying on additional modules, and I just don't want to do that. I might go with heavy wood, just because. Or are these doors so heavy that stone makes sense as they grind and swing open? No, it's not click of it. I think, yeah, unfortunately, rather than spend forever having this video be dedicated to it, I do feel like I need to go with creaky industrial. Let the record show I want more put in. So, sound effects. We're going to go with our pretty standard Barovia audio set. So I've used other maps. We're going to go with Forest Ravens, Shock Horror. And I think we might go with some really quiet wind. We'll see how it works. Oh, a bit too loud. Okay. So, with our Adventure Vampire Hunters tier, we include supplementary adventure content, which are written by me. I have created, for this particular map, a combat encounter. So, we obviously have a lot of fantastic adventure creators out there, Lunch Break Heroes, Pyram King, Mandy Mod. I don't want our adventure supplement to be something as grand. Pyram's a good friend of mine. Mandy's done a huge amount of content. Their content tends to be a full top to bottom refresh of all the Barovian lore. We've aimed for something more in the style that Lunchbreak has done. And in fact, we're going to be collaborating with Lunchbreak Heroes on a few of these maps and these content pushes you're going to see with Vampire Hunters. What I want these encounters to be are things that you can just slot into your Curse of Strahd without needing to significantly change your plot. There will be some new NPCs, but every change, every encounter and supplement should work within the map. So, for example, for our Gates of Barovia, I've created an encounter where when you get through the western gates, so you've made it into Barovia, you've done the village, you've done Serpool, you're heading around, you've crossed the Surf Falls Bridge, and you're now entering the region that has like the Bone Grinder and making your way towards Vallaki. You pass through another set of gates, which the book really keeps quiet about. You have the very impressive gates when you first arrive in Barovia, but you're probably never going to see them again unless your players leave via the exact same route and happen to look back behind them as they go. But there is a second set of those gates, which is why we've changed our Gates of Barovia map into two, east and west. And they point the correct way. This is, the correct orientation for this map. I've created an encounter where when you pass through those gates, they will slam shut behind you. You'll have an encounter, an attack for some wolves on the road, and some skeletal archers will appear on the walls behind you and be shooting you from out of range. With these encounters, we always include ways to adjust it to make it more or less difficult, depending on your group. And one thing I always like, if you've ever watched any of my stream games, you know that I go for quite tough tactical combat. I feel like a lot of official adventure content presents information and presents monsters and doesn't often suggest for the DM how they could be used. So our encounters for Vampire Hunters always include enemy tactics. So it says, here's what the enemies are trying to do, here's how the wolves will act, here's what the skeletons will and won't do. Obviously, you can completely disregard that. But if you're a DM who struggles with making those authentic decisions. If you read through here and like what you read, then you can put your trust in us as much as you want to provide those tactics for you. And then you're sort of following instructions more than trying to make sure everything's acting in character. I also include treasure, and these are all items in Foundry, so they can just be dragged and dropped into your players' inventories. And they also, we try to include a weaving the plot. How does this encounter affect the rest of your campaign? So for the example of the Western Gate of Barovia, the attackers are 1 dire wolf, 4 wolves on the path ahead, and 3 skeletons who rise from undeath atop the gatehouse and use their short bows to attack the party from behind from the relative safety of the walls. Once the combat is concluded, the rusted gates slowly creak back open. For our enemy tactics, I've put the skeletons and dire wolves coordinate their assault uncannily well due to the influence of Strahd. The wolves will make use of their pack tactics and gang up on targets who separate themselves from their group, attempting to drag them prone with the secondary effect of their bite attack, to gain advantage on further attacks. The wolves are under Strahd's influence and will fight to the death. The skeletal archers will try to avoid making shots with disadvantage against prone targets as much as possible. When your wolves drag the people to the floor, the wolves get advantage on melee attacks, but range attacks now have disadvantage. So again, we're always going back into that fact that Strahd is a master he's a 20 intellect master strategist. If he's controlling these things, they're not going to make stupid decisions. So the skeletons would instead be focusing on other things. For example here, instead focusing on characters that are attacking them or trying to assist their prone companions. The skeletons will not pursue combatants who will leave the range of their short bows, and after a short time they will return to bone piles unless disturbed again. I've put here, if your group are particularly injured or weary from their ascent through the foothills, consider removing the dire wolf or just replacing it with a regular wolf. Or if you have a larger group of players and want more challenge, turn some of the wolves into dire wolves. Treasure, I've put each of the skeletons carries a short sword, a short bow, and 10 arrows, in case you're ammo tracking in your game. If someone makes a successful investigation check of a dire wolf, you find a small golden bead that's been braided and threaded into its fur. It's something for the players to sell, a little bit of early gold. But as I put here, this was braided into the fur by Anastasia Karolova, one of Strahd's brides. Trying to sell this bead in Vallaki will risk Anastasia being informed that one of their favourite wolves has been slain by the party. Weaving the plot. Several story developments could be seeded as a result of this encounter. So I put early on in the read aloud text, sorry I didn't mention this read aloud text, when the gate slams shut, a group of ravens takes off in flight and heads west. If the players don't know any better, it just reads as atmospheric. The gates were loud and slammed shut. You and I, as DM, know what the ravens are like in Barovia. So several story developments could be seeded as a result of this encounter. Again, they're never compulsory because you're going to look at things that you do and don't like and choose to implement them or not. If the group's actions have not gotten the attention of the Keeper of the Feathers already, the startling of the ravens from the tree here could send them to inform Davy and Martikov about a group of outlanders who have passed through the gates. If the group sell the jewellery taken from the wolf in Vallaki, this information making its way back to Anastasia could lead to an encounter with one of the brides of Strahd, as she seeks to either learn more or punish the people who killed her beloved pet. I mentioned in the read aloud text that a good survival or investigation check will notice faint, mudded handcart tracks in the mud because Granny heads this way. They may have met Granny in the village of Barovia, and this could be an indicator that she's travelled this way. And then finally, the crash of the gate slamming shut could easily have gotten the attention of Strahd or any hags who are currently present near the windmill. Both groups may now be aware of the player's location and movement. Just little ideas and things for you. So because I've made that, I'm going to put the supplement out on the edge of this map so the DM has access to it. I also have the creatures. Now, I've not updated the tokens yet, so by the time you see this as a live product, this will be different. But we have things like our dire wolf. In fact, you know what? I'm not going to bother putting those on. You've seen they'll have new tokens. They'll have a nice new coin token for the vampire hunters. But this will be a fully fleshed out encounter, and that's what each of our encounter maps is going to bring with Vampire Hunters. Cool new updated Curse of Strahd maps that also contain actors. I've created some new actors for one of the other encounters I'll be making a video for, but we have items, we have treasure. For this map, I feel like we're done. We do have a few different versions of it though, don't we? So, oh well, first of all, actually, let me see what that fog looks like on this map. Undecided. It does become boring if you have fog on every single map in Barovia. So I like to use it sparingly. Also, DMs can toggle it so easily now. So, let's duplicate this map. This is Gates of Barovia West, night version. And again, obviously, we're going to have a few canopy tiles that all need to be amended. So this one is the Western Gate canopy, the nighttime version, and the nighttime version of the wall, and the nighttime version of the bare trees. We already have our sounds on, we already have our note on. Update that thumbnail image and let's do it again. This is our Blood Moon version. The Blood Moon, the Mad Cartographer, I think, has felt that the Blood Moon is maybe a bigger part of Barovia than it is because I used it in our campaign. Many of you will have seen that I am a moderator over at Curse of Strahd Discord and subreddit, and that I stream my Curse of Strahd campaign, which ran for 151 sessions. We had an incident where Strahd turned the moon red. Well, first of all, we had Strahd put the sun out because he was the ancient, he was the land, and the group hadn't reconsecrated any fanes yet. And so Strahd learned that the group had the holy symbol of Ravenkind. He was familiar with it. It recharges every dawn, so he made it so there'd be no more dawn. My players were very, very authentic role players, so we had like the cleric could not change spells until dawn came back up, which I think was about a month in game, but it was about a year in terms of sessions, where my players just did not gain the benefits of anything that happens at dawn. And like the crops of Barovia started to wilt. It started to turn into an economic problem. But then, because the group had consecrated the Thanes and Strahd had lost sort of his unnatural command of the wolves, and they had the Sun Sword, they had the holy symbol, so undead skeletons and thralls and even vampire spawn were just getting burned. My group had really neglected the werewolf aspect of Barovia. They knew about them, but they'd never gone and dealt with them. So I had Strahd empower the remaining werewolves, basically bumped them all up to being near the Loop Guru from Van Ritten's Guide to Ravenloft in terms of strength, just so there was a high level challenge. And the moon went red while he did that, and then moved all of the werewolves into Castle Ravenloft, where they served as basically shock troops for when the group eventually invaded. It worked very, very well in the context of our campaign. But if you're not going to use them, I still think they look cool. Nice, cool little variants. You could easily use it for day or night if you wanted to just have something a little different. Let's have a look. That's our wall. We want our sunset gate. Oh, I think I picked... No, I picked the wrong thing. I picked the trees again there. Oops, where are we? Sunset. Gate, wall, sunset. There we go. and then our bare trees sunset. Cool. Okay. I feel like this one is the best candidate for fog this time. Bit of an early morning fog. On our Gulfias tree video, I put rain on the nighttime one. Let's see how that works. Does the rainstorm work any better on this, or is that splash effect still too much? Yeah, that splash effect is crazy, man. Yeah, so for this nighttime version, I'm going to swap out the forest ravens for the distant thunder and birds again. Cool. Okay, so that's where the west end finishes. I have the eastern gate of Barovia to do as well. I might just end the video there with that part because it's exactly the same. So yeah, do consider jumping over to patreon.com/the Mad Cartographer and check out our Vampire Hunters adventure tier. We are going to keep making these. The initial content push has been our updating our back catalogue. But then our first month, we're bringing you the Bone Grinder and some other supplementary maps. Every month, we're aiming on doing a version of an official map and then supplementary maps. I've been coordinating and collaborating with some other creators in the space. So you'll see recognizable content appearing in this, particularly Lunch Break Heroes, who I'm a huge fan of. And I was very, very excited. He's happy for us to use some of his content that I used in our campaigns. So yeah, check it out and I'll see you next time. I will quickly show you the east mode, how I've made it. So the same height applies, but with a very cool long map from the first set of gates they come to when they first arrive in Barovia. There's our Blood Moon version, our daytime version, our nighttime version that I kept the rain consistency with, and our sunrise or sunset version. First ever post-credit sequence on the Harrison Stream channel. Bye.